that, you'll have a few more activities where you get to claim like special NFTs that is proof that you attended this event with that new with the new wallet that you created during the hands-on activity. Then we will have wrap up and things like that. So without further ado, I would like to call upon Hao Xiang and also Ishan to come and share about some global and local news. Let's give them a round of applause.
Hi guys, my name is Hao Xiang, and today my colleague Ishan will share about the BCC Bulletin, which is all about the latest news happening in this blockchain world. So I will be sharing about the global news, and then Ishan will be sharing about the local news. So yeah, first of all, we have this news about you can search your Ethereum wallet address, and then you just paste it in Google, and then you can actually saw how much Ethereum balance that you have. Ishan,
Yes.
is this your wallet address?
Yes, this is indeed one of my wallet address.
Oh, that's quite rich.
Yeah, I know, I don't show off.
All right, next up. So we have news about the Google partnership with Coinbase. So if you're interested about this news, you can scan the QR code there. It provide a very interesting explanation about this. And there are four main key takeaway for this news. And then the first one is Google Cloud enables cryptocurrency payment in the future. And the second one is the Web3 dev can now access to the Google Cloud blockchain data and then can build something on it. And then the third one is the Coinbase provide something called Coinbase Prime, and then it's for the user that can institutional payment, something like that. And then the last one we have the so basically Coinbase is a strategic partner for Google Cloud, and then they provide data services, something like that. Yeah, next. So we have a very interesting news here, and it's a BNB chain exploit, and it's very funny that you can see the meme right there, and then you can see select all Binance Smart Chain validators, and all of them is Cizek, the founder of Binance, and it's very funny because BNB chain have the problem that is too centralized. And then if you're interested on this news, and then you can scan the QR code there, and then it will lead you to the Nansen, and then you can see all the details there. It's very interesting, and then you guys can take a look. Ishan, did you use Binance Smart Chain before?
I used to use Binance Smart Chain, but I do not now because it's quite shit.
All right, next. I'll pass it to Ishan.
All right, thank you very much, Hao Xiang. My name is Ishan, and I will cover a little bit on what has happened in the local scene. So there's a couple of things that's happened quite recently, and I will touch up upon some of the things that I find quite interesting. First of all is LHDN's tax on crypto. So if you guys take out your smartphone and please do scan the QR code over here, it will take you to the official document of LHDN regarding the crypto taxes and everything. In case you guys don't know what is LHDN, they are the Lembaga Hasil Dalam Negeri who are involved in managing the taxes and everything that's happening in Malaysia. So if you scan the QR code, it will take you to the document relating to taxes on cryptos. All right, next slide. Okay, just another quick share. We have a Discord channel. In case you guys didn't join, please do join. We have a channel called Resources and Link. So inside in the resource and the link, we have another link as well, which also takes you to the official document of the Lembaga Hasil Dalam Negeri. All right, next. Okay, another interesting that happened quite recently is Luno, the #1 legalized crypto platform in Malaysia, has recently listed Cardano and Solana. This comes after the addition of Chainlink and also Uniswap earlier this year, which brings the total number of coin offerings in Luno to a total number of 9.
I have a question. Do you
Yes.
own any Solana or the Cardano?
I do own a lot of Cardano. I bought Cardano when it was $1, and then it really went up very high to I think $3. I never sold it. I just hold it. Now I think it's around 43 cents or now.
Still better than you buy at the top like $3.
Yeah.
You hold until now.
Yeah, I convinced a lot of friends to buy Cardano at $3. Now, yeah, okay.
Yeah, for me, I prefer Solana than Cardano.
Yeah. Personally, me, I do prefer Cardano over Solana. Let's talk about that later on. All right, the next thing. Okay, we had another interesting thing that happened, which is two scholars from Malaysia represented DevCon Bogota. One of them is our beloved Vice President Yudhishra. Another one is Ethan from ELVTD. So, in case you guys didn't know what is DevCon about, so DevCon is hosted to educate and empower the community to build and use decentralized system. It is like a conference for builders of all kind out there. So DevCon actually provides scholarship programs. So it provides full support to make DevCon more accessible for 50 individuals who have the potential to make a big impact on Ethereum and its community, but is unable to attend without assistance, monetary or otherwise. Scholars will receive DevCon tickets, funding for transportation, accommodation per diem, and also visa application. So to talk a little bit more about DevCon, what is it about, and his experiences regarding it, let us invite Yudhishra Sukumaran up onto the stage to give us a little bit of an introduction here. Let's give him a big round of applause, guys.
Welcome, Yudish.
Welcome, Yudhish.
Yeah, actually, I have a question for you. What do you think about DevCon? Is it very fun, interesting, or very boring?
I think DevCon was really an eye-opening experience because you meet people from all parts of the world and you learn about their different experiences, what are they building, and different perspectives. So for me, the realization was in Malaysia, we tend to look at the space itself as a commercialization kind of benefit, right? But it's not only commercialization and it's not only about hype, it's about more than that. It's about using the technology to be able to solve some of the problems that we see in our everyday life, right? I won't get too much into that, but to me, that was the experience that I benefited.
Yeah, interesting. So is this the guy that you put your whole life saving into it?
Is this? Yeah, yeah, I could say that.
Who is that?
He is Vitalik Buterin, the co-founder of Ethereum.
Did you rap and sing along with Vitalik during DevCon?
No, I didn't have the chance to.
Okay.
Privacy out. Yeah, so I think that's all for you, Dish. Thank you, Dish. So we'll pass it back to you again.
Right, so thank you guys for the sharing session. Let's give another round of applause to Ishan and Hao Xiang. Okay, next slide. I think we can skip this. All right, okay, go back. So now let's invite Tila to come about and have his sharing session, Introduction to Web3. So let's give it up for Tila.
Testing. All right, how everyone? What are you all doing? How are you all doing? Have you all had dinner? No. Yeah, I'm hungry. I think the last time I ate was like probably around 12 o'clock. Like super hungry, and I'm running on 3 hours of sleep. So please, if I do something funny, if I do something wrong, just correct me. Right? 3 hours of sleep, and I went for a hike, so I'm like super tired. So I'm just gonna wing it. Okay? So that's what's gonna happen. Okay, I thought there was a projector. Projector is there. Okay. Anyway, just want to introduce myself. My name is Tila, and I'm the co-founder of ELVTD. So one of the things that I actually take care of for ELVTD is I take care of the strategy, I take care of business development, and a couple more other things because we're a startup, we're a small team, so we kind of juggle and do pretty much everything. And of course, ELVTD is together with Ethan, who is here as well. So he'll explain more about what ELVTD actually does. But to give you a very simple summary, what we do is that we provide NFT-based utility services for brands, for companies, for pretty much any different types of companies or organization that actually needs NFT as a service. So that's one. But at the same time, we also build our own solutions, things like micro-credential, NFT ticketing systems, and a couple of other things. So micro-credential ticketing, and ticketing is one of the bigger things that we have been doing. So you might have heard of the first vending machine, NFT vending machine in Malaysia. I'm not sure how many of you have heard of this before. Anyone? All right, okay, there you go. So that NFT vending machine just recently went into the Malaysia's Guinness Book of Records, and the system behind it was actually built by Ethan here at ELVTD. So we've built the solutions for them, right? So anyway, there are a lot of different types of things that NFTs and blockchain can actually do. But today, I just want to get a gauge of how many of you who already know what Web3 is. Hands up. All right. Who's like completely new and have no idea about Web3? Right, great. So you're in the right place. Okay. I'm gonna just try my best to demystify what Web3 is. So just go along with it. Right. So oh, it's too far. No. What? You don't know Web3? Wait, Go back here. Sorry, you just click on slides. You still take it. Right. Yep. Okay. Thanks. Technology can be shitty sometimes. Anyway, if you have your phone, just can you go into the Slido? There's just one question. So once you get in, can you answer that question? So you probably should be able to see on your phone. The question should be, if I recall correctly, damn it, I don't know when I did the Slido, but if I recall correctly, it should be, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word Web3 or blockchain? So yeah, just put it there. Okay, I guess that you probably have like scanned it. Can you switch to the Slido screen? I hope it's like the internet is like. Ah, there you go. Okay, 6 participants, 5 participants. Okay, I need a bit more. Yep, 17. Right, interesting. So I see, at least from the screen. Okay, I like that one. Scan, like right in the middle, smack middle. Okay, NFT hub, cryptocurrency, crypto what? Okay, never mind. Web. What's like dance? Nasi lemak, like guys, why? I know, we're all hungry. I'm hungry as well. But nasi lemak, no government, all right, ownership, free platform. Okay, Ponzi, that's a big one. Get rich quick. Okay, guys, stop. Enough. Done. Right. I think probably most of you are playing a fool, but that's okay. But yeah, so if you notice, the two main things that actually I want to point out is the fact that you see two words that are very negative, which is Ponzi and scam. In a way, they're not wrong. Okay? But in a way, they're also wrong. Okay? So the reason why we might think of it as a Ponzi or a scam is because we may not understand it well enough. Like back then when digital wallets came into the picture, a lot of people were skeptical about using digital wallets, right? Yeah, especially parents. They were thinking that, why is it a scam? I mean, this is a scam. This is not a bag. Why am I putting money inside and how can I use this? So it was difficult. But with education, with proper understanding of technology, you are able to move one step further and demystify that. Even if you think about banking systems, do you think banking systems have no scams? How many of you probably have had a friend who has been scammed, or in the bank account, there you go, I didn't even finish my sentence, there's another hand, there's another hand, right? So proves my point, the fact that even banking systems that are already centralized and have been well established have problems that has like whatever scams that they have, right? So it's a problem. So it's the same thing with the current technology that we have. Because there is something new, we fear it, right? So it's just weird. Usually I have my projector right in the middle. Okay, can you? I think there's some problem with this. Just click it. All right. So I know that there's some tiny changes in arrangement terms of time and everything, so I'm going to try and move a bit more faster. So learning topics for today is that the main focus is I want to just discuss a bit on Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3. So if you think about it, the way that internet actually started, I think if it was probably 1991 to 1990, pretty much when I was born, so now you know my age. So Web 1 started as a very simple web page, which I'll showcase later. Web 2, and then right now we are kind of transitioning into Web 3 while there is still Web 2. Okay. So an example. So the first ever website, that's literally the real first ever website, was really about just text and links. So we usually call it, if I recall correctly, it's hypertext links, right? So this is how it looks like. So we've come from this to what we have right now, which is mostly Web 2, and of course with some changes and additional functionalities, we have Web 3. So then Web 1 itself changed a little bit more, transformed a little bit with some images, GIFs, and so on, and became something like this. I'm not sure how many of you here have interacted with such kind of websites, probably not. Yeah. Oh, okay. That's probably shows your age. Either that, or you probably went into like digging, finding out like old websites and stuff. But anyway, how many of you here can see? Oh, okay. At least one person knows. Oh, how many person actually knows and sing? Right. Okay. Yeah. All right. So anyway, so we have come to this, which is basically the Web 2 side. So in Web 2, if you notice, there are a lot more things that you can actually do. In the early website, what can you do? You can only look at the information, right? There's nothing else that you can do. But in the Web 2 space, what do you see? You have things like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. What can you do? It's not just that you are interacting with the information. You can create your own content. You can upload content. You can share the content. There's a lot of interaction that is actually happening between the user and the content creator. So it's not just browse and read. Okay, so that's the biggest change that you actually see in Web 2. So it's social, collaborative. Now, what about Web 3? Okay, in Web 3, we have what we have from Web 2. We have what we have from Web 1, but with some slight twists and changes. So the main idea of Web 3 lies around these two things. Number one is ownership, okay? And number two is decentralization. So decentralization, the concept I will explain a bit later, but ownership, I'll explain right now, but with a very, very simple caveat. So ownership is basically, if you look at YouTube, if you look at Twitter, and all these different platforms that allows you to create content, you put your content, right? There is a chance that they can delete that content. So if you think about it, whose content is that? Was that yours or was that the platform's? Okay, they have control over your content, right? So it's a problem. Like if you probably have seen like what's happening to Kanye West right now. So that's one of it. But Donald Trump got kicked out as well from Twitter, for example. So that's another example. So anyway, your content is not exactly your content in Web 2 space. So that's that. So that's ownership. I'll talk more about the decentralization in a bit. Okay, so to put into an overview perspective, those are examples of tools that we actually had in Web 1. So if you can see, some of you may not recognize some of these things, but yeah, you have like Craigslist, for example, is a very old one. Okay, in Web 2, you actually have all these things that you will recognize, and Web 3, you may or may not recognize some of these examples, right? But it doesn't matter if you don't recognize the Web 3 stuff, because most of you are new, and even those who are already in the Web 3 space may not recognize those things. So that's okay. Okay, now, just holding this thing, but I'll just put it here first. Okay, to understand the concept of Web 3, I would like to just track back a little bit and try to explain something about networks. So, in the olden days, okay, probably very, very olden days, when we had things like villages, but there were no roads, for example. Okay? So, economical value actually happened when there was transportation, or there was actually a need to transfer some information or goods from one village to another village. Now, if these two villages, for example, are not connected do you think there will be any value in additional goods that each of these villages have? Things like fish, for example. Village A has a lot of fish. Every day they fish. Okay, so they have like 10 people in the village, but they have 1,000 fish, right? What's going to happen to the extra fish that they have? Can they sell it? They can't if they can't get out of their network, right? So if there is no transportation, if there is no network connecting from one village to another village with a higher population, I can't sell my goods. So my fish or the goods that I have zero economic value, right? So just go to waste. So that's how it works. That's how economy actually works. The basis of it. So any economic students here, please, if I say something stupid, just correct me. Right. So now think of blockchain as also a network. Where else can you actually see networks? So I put another diagram there. So that's a banking institution. Okay. So banking institutions also have networks. Things like HSBC have global networks. Things like CIMB and Maybank have regional networks. And you also have like local banks that have network around the own country, right? So there are a lot of different kind of examples that I can give you in terms of network. But the main key point is that network creates value. If you think about it, even religion is actually a form of network. If you think about it carefully, right? Yeah, I'm not going to say anything, but it is a form of network. Things like MLM, for example, is also a network, but it kind of creates value. It kind of creates that demand in certain ways, right? So the reason why I talk about networks is that so that you can actually visualize this particular concept of centralized networks and decentralized networks. So on the left-hand side, you're actually looking at an example of a centralized network. A simpler, the best, well, not to say the best, but one of the easy examples that I can give about a centralized network would be banks, right? So the banks, especially the central bank in a particular country, controls the value of currency, okay? But they don't just simply control it. It also depends on a lot of external factors. Your stock markets, your foreign direct investments, and a lot of other things, right? But they have a certain amount of control. They have control over all the other banks that are operating in that same country. So they can say, hey, what's the interest rate going to be? So you might have heard of this term called the overnight rates, right? So what's this term, what are these rates going to be? So these are things that the central bank can actually control. They control your bank account. All the banks actually have access to your bank account. They can get your information, they can look at your credit scores, they can do a lot of things. So this is a form of centralized system. Other centralized system would be governments, okay? Schools, education, pretty much a lot of different organizations that you can think about are centralized organizations. So there's good and bad, right? Centralized organizations, centralized networks actually make things work, like what we are doing right now. Pretty much everything is actually centralized. But there's also a concept for you to understand on decentralization. So a decentralized network is a bit different. So you might look at it and say, hey, that's messy. Do I want to be part of that? Right? But there are certain things that decentralization helps to take the burden or the problems of centralized networks. So this is where I'm going to try and explain that by drawing. Okay. Usually I have my digital writing pad, but it's like so far it's going to be very difficult for me to go and write from there and try to explain to the audience. So I'm going to try and take a crack at this whiteboard. Okay. Just be mindful, I have terrible writing, I think. Right. Okay, so let's see. Okay, decentralization. Let's just think about, okay, how many of you here watch football? Oh, good. How many of you here at least know what is football? Please tell me, everyone. Please. Okay, right, great. Okay, so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to try and explain decentralization by using a football field. Okay, so I hope the corners can actually see, but anyway, that's just a football field. And let's say there's a goalpost here, and then there's a goalpost here. I like Chelsea, so I just put that Chelsea. Please, any other fans, don't kill me. Versus MU. We had this game recently. I don't like MU, so I just put it there. don't go against me. But anyway, so Chelsea versus MU. Now, for a game of football to work, what do you need? You need players, right? Okay, don't care about the goalkeeper. Just put there some players and just put there zeros. Yeah, I know my drawings are terrible. Just put there some players. Okay, so I put players. What other characters are missing from the field? Referee. Good. So referee, I'm gonna put it like that. Okay. What other characters that are still missing from the diagram? Keeper is fine, never mind. I just count them as players. Okay, audiences. Yes, I wanted this one. Yes. Okay. Right. Yeah, something like that lah. Okay. Never mind. Right. So all of you know the rules of football, right? If one of these players crosses, scores a goal, it's a goal. Now, who decides that it's a goal or not a goal? Referee, right? Even though every one of them actually knows the rule, it's the referee that says it is a goal, right? Okay, so referee says it's a goal. So let's just say Chelsea got 1. And you 0, right? Okay, yeah, okay, great. All right, so, okay, so now we have that situation. Now, I want to ask you a question. If I were to remove this referee, can they still play football? Right? Now, I've removed them. I can still play football. If someone else scores, can you validate that particular goal? Yes or no? Yes, right? So as long as we all know the rules, we can validate it, right? And what else we have here? We have audiences who are watching the entire game the whole time. And we have also another system called VAR, which is called Video Assisted Referees, right? Okay, so we have that system. Basically, it records the entire screen. Whatever transaction, whatever goals that are happening or whatever fouls that are happening is being watched and being recorded. Okay, think of it this way. I have just explained decentralization. What did I remove? The referee. What does the referee represent? Great. So welcome to the decentralized blockchain world. So this is exactly how blockchain works. Now think about all of this kicking and transferring, passing and everything, all the goal as transactions. Each individual transaction is being recorded and is actually being viewed in a video, right? So think of this as like a ledger where you can actually see all of the different traces of whatever that is actually happening. So that's blockchain. And who do you think the audiences are? Great. So some of you who have some knowledge in blockchain may be able to answer this. Great. So the audiences are what we call as validators. So for those of you who don't know what the concept is, it's like this. Again, think about this as transactions. So there are some people called validators in different networks of blockchain where they look at this transaction and say, hey, mathematically, cryptographically, this transaction is legit. Therefore, it's validated, and now I can I can store that transaction into the ledger system. So the ledger system are things like Etherscan, where you can actually look at it, and then you can actually check all the transactions transparently, right? So the game of football can still work without a centralized authority. So that's exactly what I'm trying to say. In pretty much every other different type of organizations, there are certain things that we can actually do without a centralized figure. And you may be surprised, some of these things can be a lot more efficient and cost effective if we actually remove a central figure. Okay, I'll come back to that in a while. Okay, I need to be careful of time. So if I'm running out of time, just let me know. Okay, so there's another concept here called, So there's another concept here that I put there called rules. So blockchain and rules. So think of rules as those football rules that we talked about. Now, in the real blockchain world, what we're going to do is that we're going to change those rules that we talked about, the passing and whatever, the fouls and the scoring, into a contract. Okay? So this contract is a digital contract. Think of it like a calculator. All of you have used a calculator. If I put there 1 + 1 in the calculator, what answer will you get? 2, right? Can it ever change?
Unless it's in decimal by
Right, yeah, correct, right? So you cannot change because that's a rule that is already predetermined in the calculator. Unless we go and change the logic gates at the back of the calculator and things, it will not change, right? So that's considered like a contract. So if all the rules are put into a smart contract and are being maintained by codes and machines, that means you cannot change those rules. Okay, so just think of it as a calculator contract. I mean, calculator rule, right? So imagine a lot of transactions. For example, when you buy housing, a loan, for example, housing loans and everything. So normally, what you have to go through is you have to go through lawyers, you have to go through this, you have to go for stamp duty and everything. What if all of these things are actually assigned in a smart contract so that you don't have to do redundant things? It reduces the efficiency. It increases the efficiency. It increases transparency because pretty much all the different people, let's say bank would want to look at the contract, lawyers would want to look at the contract, developers would want to look at the contract, end users want to look at the contract, right? It can be in the blockchain as a contract, as a smart contract, and everyone can actually access it when they need it. Okay, so it removes a lot of redundancies if you really think about it in the economical sense of things. Gosh, when I bought my house, it's damn costly just because of lawyer fees and a lot of other extra fees just to extract, change documents and things like that. So it's crazy. So you will get there when you get there. So anyway, that's smart contract. I kind of explained it. So to put it in an overview, you will have transactions that is happening that we instigate as a user. It can be from any type of situations. You have validators who look at the transactions. You have blocks of transactions being validated, and then it's stored in the ledger system. Okay. So I want to challenge your mind a bit. I know I'm talking a lot, so I want you to talk as well. So now I want you to think about the limitations of what we have in Web 2. Right now, you understand a couple of concepts. So you understand the concept of decentralization. You understand what is Web 2 roughly, and you understand Web 3 is about ownership and decentralization, right? So there's a lot more about Web 3, but those are two main important things. Discuss with your friends at the site, okay, anyone, and think about what are the current tools in the Web 2 space, or even organizations is also fine. I'm okay with that. Okay? And see what limitations do you see. Okay? I don't want you to talk bad about Web 2 because it's still good, we still need them. But I want you to think about what are the constraints, what are the limitations of this. Okay? Take 5 minutes. Discuss.
Not about this.
Okay.
One was the nasi lemak. It was not the food.
Right.
It was the nasi lemak token.
Oh, okay. All right. And then the other one?
And the other one is like, I can conclude that humans do have a creative mind, the way they can mold information, like the way you explained it on football fields. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Go on. Discuss.
I have a question. Can anyone be a validator?
No. So not everyone can be a validator. Usually what happens is that they will actually look at your infrastructure, they will actually look at your conceptions, they will actually look at a lot of different things and understand whether you are actually capable of actually being a validator. So different networks have different rules for validator. Yes. But usually there are not one validator, there's many validators.
Okay, give you one more minute. I give 2 examples there. I should not have put them up on the. Never mind, those are my examples. All right, you want to go first? Now I'm going to start selecting people. Right, okay, at the back. Yeah, go ahead.
No
Okay, can you give me an example?
Like let's say like Donald Trump, he says some controversial things. They say of freedom of speech, but they can still block him out of their platforms.
Right. Very good example. Right. So that's limitation. Of course, we are not here to say whether Donald Trump said whatever Donald Trump said is right or wrong. Okay. Sometimes I feel myself that you should probably be kicked out of Twitter, but yeah. So but what we're talking about is the concepts, right? Okay. So yeah, go ahead.
So the data on Web2 is not really hosted on something like peer-to-peer network. For example, how data is hosted on Tor. So over there, the data is not on one side or something. It's basically distributed. So in Web3, the data is distributed, which is not the case in Web2.
Right. So yeah, that's one example as well. So how many of you have used things like LimeWire? Oh yay! Okay, LimeWire. Okay, great. Okay, what's the current? Okay, uTorrent. All right. Okay. Yeah, BitTorrents. Okay. So how do you all think that these systems actually work? If you think about it, it's peer-to-peer. It's actually distributed content that you actually gain bits and pieces of information from all the different peers and comes into the chain. So it's kind of like a blockchain. You can think about it in a certain way, right? So the reason why is that he was talking about how the current systems, the current data are like centralized. It's not like actually distributed. So yeah. So for example, recently we had a problem with like WhatsApp. We're going down, right? Probably it's because it was not distributed enough. For example, I'm just not diagnosing it. I'm just giving you a probable example. Okay. So any other examples over there? This side. Very quiet. Anyone? It's not lecture. Huh? Yeah. So you should be afraid of your lecturers, but you shouldn't be afraid of me. I'm just gonna disappear. Yes, go ahead.
With these two guys here, we were discussing basically advertising in Web2. Because of the inherent centralization of user data, there's always an incentive to cater their preferences to their preferences. And so with Web2, you always have that economic problem where it's too profitable to advertise to your users.
Oh, I like that one. Yeah. So he mentioned about one thing. I used to have one slide called there's a black color thing with a white black color like backdrop with a white wording that says, "Hey, monetize me." Yeah. So what he's talking about is how data is actually being monetized, and you must monetize this data because it's so profitable, right? So if you look at things like YouTube, you look at things like Facebook, Twitter, and all of these things, your data is being monetized. Do you have any control of the monetization of your data? Nope. Can you say, hey, you monetize my data, this is how much percentage I should get? Nope. Yeah. YouTube, of course, gives you a certain percentage, right? But do you have control over it? No. If they want to block your account, they can. Right? And it has happened before. So same thing with TikTok, same thing with pretty much anything else. You don't own the content. That's a problem. But there's a company who's actually using, oh damn it, I forgot the name of the company. It's not like popping up right on my head. They actually were in like, I think, Dragon's Den recently. One of the very good pictures. So they talked about this. So they talked about what if, actually Brave browser does it in a pretty decent way. What if all the contents, all my behavior in the internet is actually tied to a digital identity that is anonymous, okay? It's anonymous, but I can choose to say, hey, I want to share data with this particular companies, okay? But when there's an advertisement being targeted to me or to anyone in the network, I should get a certain percentage of whatever that entails from the earnings, right? Okay. This is already possible. Okay. So there's a company, I just can't remember the name, but you can just Google it. How do you monetize your own data through blockchain? If you Google it, you should be able to find a lot of different examples. Very good one. This corner, anyone? No? Okay. Okay. All right. So enough questions. I'm going to move on. Okay. So the reason why I put the TikTok and YouTube, we kind of talked about it already. So yeah. Anyone have any questions though before we move on? Just ask ahead if you like. Yeah. Okay. So you might be thinking, so yeah, we have monetization, we have control, we have a lot of other things, but what else can Web3 actually do? For this, I'm gonna get back into my drawing board. Okay. I feel like a teacher again. Yeah, by the way, while I erase this thing, I also run a coding school. Ethan is also from that school. He's also a staff and a student there. And we have a couple of people who are actually from the school. It's called 42 Kuala Lumpur. So yeah, yeah. How many of you have heard of it before? Yay, great, good stuff. Right. So it's a school that is completely free. You have to pay 0 fees. There's no tuition fees. There's no teachers. There's no lecturers. It's student-centered. It's project-based learning, and it's completely free. Right? Okay. If you're curious, I hope that I piqued your curiosity. So if you're curious, Google it. And yep, that's about it. That's like an ad-word break. But anyway, we're supposed to talk about Auditorium. So that's an example of how Web3 can actually make an impact in the sense of like things like medicine and medical expertise. So how many of you here have like family members who have diabetes? Right? Okay. Do any one of you know the cost of insulin? Insulin shots in Malaysia. Any? Google it if you want. But anyway, I think from the top of my mind, it's probably around 30 ringgit to 45 ringgit. Could be higher, could be lower. Just don't take my word for it. You can Google it and verify the information. Right. So, yeah. So that's the cost of insulin roughly in Malaysia. Now, let's think about America. What do you think is the cost of insulin in Malaysia, in America? Ooh, yeah, it's a good one. Should be around at least about $150 to $200. I don't know what the rates are. It's effing expensive. I know this is cool, so I don't want to like, yeah. But anyway, yeah, it's crazy. If you compare that, that's insane. But can anyone tell me or give an example why the price is that high? Anyone?
Maybe supply and demand.
Sorry?
Supply and demand. Maybe.
Supply and demand is what? Anyone else? Monopoly. That's the word that I was looking for. So this is due to monopoly. Monopoly by who? We call this term as big pharma. So these are the big pharmaceutical companies in America that actually ends up getting monopoly, patents, and everything about the medicines, and they control the price. Okay, that's the reason why the price skyrockets like that. In Malaysia, it's a bit different. We have laws preventing it from happening, but it's also possible for it to happen, right? So, what are they doing here in big pharma in America? Why is this so prevalent? Why is this possible? So think about it in this way. Let's say we have a new disease called Morona. Yeah, I know. But anyway, right. So let's just say we have a new disease, right? In order for me to come up with a vaccine for this disease, what do I need? Money. Funds. And where will the funds go? To research. So go to research. Okay, actually, it's supposed to be arrow to researchers here. Where do you think the money is coming from?
Governments, people.
Okay, you have government. Some more? Investors. Yeah. Another keyword?
Crowdfunding.
Pharmaceutical companies. Big pharmaceuticals. Can you give me one example of big pharma in the US that you probably know because of Corona? Right. Okay. Yeah. Pfizer, for example. I don't name names, but yeah, you all named it, huh? Didn't say anything. Right. Anyway, so we have these companies that are actually funding the research to produce vaccines and things like that. So who owns the patent for these things? These guys. Usually government not so much. Okay, usually the big pharmas will lobby the government to put the fund, because government probably don't have fund for these kind of things. They probably have, but emergency situation and everything they probably don't have. So big pharmas are the ones who still end up controlling the market. So when the researchers actually research, they'll have that fund, they'll research, but they cannot own anything. Okay? Government probably can't own as much as well.
So the entire patent will end up going back to the big pharma, and the big pharma has 100% authority almost to control the price. Okay, so that's how things actually work, especially in America. In other countries, slightly different, but in America it's like that. Now, what this company, it's not a company, what AUDItorium has actually done is to break this vicious cycle, which was so hard for them to actually do in America, but they did it. How? By using blockchain. So the term DAO actually stands for decentralized, okay, I don't want to write the entire thing, but yeah, autonomous organization. Correct me if I'm wrong here. Okay, I forgot the middle term. But yeah, it should be something like that. So what this actually means is that, let's just take that particular example, right? So I'm going to take a group of researchers. Okay, this is a group of researchers, put them into a table. Okay, no, yeah, table, whatever. Okay, so, and we have funds coming in. Okay, we have funds. Now, these funds can be from community members, angels. Angels are the term that we call for like angel investors, people who are individually like investing. It can come from crowds, crowdfunding sources, can come from anywhere else. But the one difference is that every single entity that actually puts money into this particular research or pool of funding, so I call this the pool of fund, okay, has a stake. Let's say I put 10 bucks. I have a stake that is worth 10 bucks for me to dictate what's going to happen. Okay, the more that we can put in, but there's also limitations on how much stake I can have. The reason why is because we don't want to create monopolies even in this environment. Now, all of these fundings are visible, transparent. In this scenario, it's mostly non-visible. Okay, so everything is visible, transparent. Every member of the community, researchers, people who actually invest, are able to see what's happening to the fund. And let's just say there are 3 problems. Maybe let's just say cancer, and let's just say Morona. Okay, everyone can actually vote based on the value that they actually put in, which particular project that I want to prioritize, which research I want to prioritize, how much money should actually go into these researchers. Okay, because at the end of the day, the people who invest are the ones who are stakeholders, right? And they usually come from groups who have interest in certain things. Could be National Cancer Society, could be National Kidney Society. Okay, so these people who actually interact with the people in the ground with these particular problems will understand more about what's at stake, rather than big pharma who's just interested in the money, right? Okay, so now we have the pool of money, we have this, we know, let's just say we take Morona, okay? The researchers will work on it, come up with a patent. Who do you think owns the patent? Sorry? Everyone. Everyone in the organization actually owns it. And this is by contract. So earlier I mentioned about the term called smart contract, right? So all transactions that happens in a DAO is governed by the smart contract. So which means there is no hanky-panky going on, okay, because it's visible, right? And once you have patent, the patent can even actually be an NFT, which can be as a smart contract, okay? Right, which means when they were to sell this patent or make medicines, certain percentage of the income goes back to the pool for the funds, so that another project, maybe the cancer project, can actually be activated, right? So fundings, profit, come back. It's a cycle. You don't see that here, okay? Because a huge chunk of that money is going for profits for the big firm. Which one is more efficient?
No.
This one, right? Okay. So that's one of the problems in the current world that actually can be solved by using blockchain technology. And there are more. There are a lot more, right? So it's just whether you are looking or not. Okay. So let me just take a break there and see what's next. Any questions though? anything, or you want to add some points, or you want to share whatever your views are before we actually move on to anything else? Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
In a doubt, how would you validate if one party is not interested in participating as other parties? They're trying to create, for example, 5 accounts, different names, but the same.
Right. Good question. So, technical question. Ethan, if you want to help me, you can help me. Huh? All right. So, one way that I could think of is that different type of organization, different type of networks, you can actually set certain rules. For example, if you create a particular account and you create multiple accounts with that main account, we would be able to trace the original account holder. So that's one way of doing it, right? What other ways of doing it? Help me with the technical question.
All right, so that's actually a really good question.
Yeah.
Because it's a problem that's actually happening right now in Web3. So I'll give you an example, right? For most DAOs right now, the amount of votes you get is based on the amount of tokens you hold, which essentially means how much money you have. So if you have more money, you have more power towards to shift the direction of the vote. So the issue of having multiple accounts to essentially like if you split your funds to multiple accounts, it doesn't really help that much as well, because it's essentially the same thing as just having one account with like a huge amount of funds, right? But having multiple accounts in other scenarios might be quite dangerous. So for example, if you could have 50% of people rather than votes, like more than 50% of people that actually say yes to something, like a majority vote, then that is like taken over. That is called a Sybil attack. So in Web3, if you were to Google Sybil attack, it's basically like a 51% attack. So many people right now are coming up with tools, Sybil resistant tools. So Sybil is SYBIL. Sybil resistant tools, which essentially try to get you to connect your Facebook or your Google or prove your identity somehow, either through a KYC, uploading your IC or any other details. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope that answers the question. By the way, the term that here's SYBIL, Sybil, right? You should Google it and check out the concept of Sybil, why that word actually came into play. There is some reasons why. And you may also look at something called Sybil system, which is a concept that is introduced in an anime, but it's a very, very interesting concept. I think it's a good thing if you like technology, if you like blockchain stuff. I think you should go and Google that term and find out what it means. Okay, so where were we? Yeah, we were at impact, and yeah. So the last thing that I want to talk about before I call Ethan up, or I think probably TY, is challenges around Web3. Now, I've talked so many good things about Web3. Yes, go ahead.
So, as you said, the big pharma is acting more like a mafia. So, isn't that the same case when there are, like, for example, a person has about 40 to 50 or maybe more than 51% of the accounts when it comes to DAO? So, he's also acting like a mafia. Isn't it similar?
Very good question. So, that's what he was asking earlier, that Ethan was saying that there are methodologies to overcome those resistance in the DAO organization. So, very good question. But there are also restrictions that you can actually place as an organization that says, hey, each one of these individuals can only have certain stakes, right? You can actually limit those and can actually govern again by smart contracts. And to exploitation, I mean, there will always be exploitations. So which is where there are tools and other methodologies to overcome those things.
I think the same happened with the Ether 2.0, right?
Yeah, I mean, yes, exactly. Right? There's a lot of problems. So which is where we are coming to the next topic, which is on challenges. So good point. So that brings back our topic here. Challenges of Web3. I talked and painted a very rosy picture of blockchain and Web3, but is it all that good? Okay, so from your experiences, from your perspective, maybe you can share, what do you think are the challenges of Web3? Anyone? So we mentioned about some exploitation here just now. Anyone? Yeah, go ahead.
Not user friendly.
Oh,
I like that one. It's so on point. It's so non-user friendly. I mean, Ethan, me, and Jatin, who's our UI UX designer, whenever we try to come up with a solution for a company or anything, one of the biggest problems that we face is how the hell do we design the UI UX? Because there are always limitations when it comes to interacting with things like MetaMask, for example, where we have no control over. But how do we make things simple? So design has been a huge problem when it comes to Web3. But I do not know why it's still not going into the right direction. But yeah, there are a lot of ways for us to like help to change those things. Even later when Ethan is going to show how to set up MetaMask and everything, it's just a headache. Yeah, that is one challenge. Yes.
And the other challenge would be the TTS, transactions per second. Like at the moment, Solana has about 100,000 and Ether 2.0, which will have about 250,000, I think. But if we compare it with the centralized as Nasdaq, they have more than 1 million. So we have issues with the scalability also.
Yeah, that's also a good point. Scalability is an issue. So if you look at especially like Bitcoin transactions, right? When transactions go through, it can take some time. You have to go through like so many different validations, and yeah, but that's the reason why they try to build things like Solana to like increase the number of transactions. Things like Polygon also has an increased number of transactions, but of course, in comparison to things like Web2, it's still not there yet. So if you want to give some technical perspective of it, yeah. Yeah, I know. I keep putting him on the stand.
Yeah, so the challenges with transaction per second right now is mainly because of the validation. So for those who are not in Web3 yet, basically for every transaction to be approved by the network, it has to be validated. So that means that every node in the blockchain, so for example, if you have like 100,000 computers that are actually validating these transactions, every one of them must accept it and validate it. And then there's also issues of like, if I were to just, again, one of those Sybil attacks where I take control of the network and then I make one bad transaction, what happens? Which is why we have sort of like prevention mechanisms when we have like 6 confirmations before we say, okay, this is the real chain, right? So yeah, those are like the reasons why a lot of layer 1s can't scale right now. But there are like a lot of layer 2s that are trying to fix that.
All right. Other challenges? What do y'all think? Yeah. Yeah.
Fraud.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's why we saw that scam and fraud and Ponzi's in the front. Yeah, it's true. Whenever there's new technology, whenever there's new financial value, there will be bound to have things like frauds, right? So it's prevalent pretty much everywhere when it comes to like DeFi products, which is decentralized finance, which involves a lot of money, games. You have a lot of this that probably shows up on your news and network talking about, oh, they lost about 200 million or things like that. So it happens. It's always there. But there are always people who are always also looking into how to prevent these things, how to reduce these things. So that's also one of the reasons as an end user, we need to start educating ourselves. We need to educate the people around us, right? In order for us to know and identify what could be a fraud, what could be a Ponzi scheme, so that we are educated and we can make rational decisions. It's the same thing as the current systems, banking system, where there can be a lot of frauds, right? I get like if I check my phone right now, I probably have like 4 potential fraud like phone calls. Especially after you buy a property, you check your phone. 10 days later, you will get like 10 calls probably, right? Or WhatsApp messages and things like that. So it's possible and it's still happening even in any scenarios. So it's something that we can't do anything about, but it is a challenge in Web3 because the problem in Web3 is that you don't even understand how things work. So you probably will not be able to identify whether this is actually a scam, whether this is something real. It doesn't help when there's a lot of anonymity around a lot of these financial products, especially, right? So it's even more difficult for you to seek help to solve your problem when you get like cheated, for example. Okay, so that is definitely a big problem in Anything else before I close it? Yeah, go ahead.
I guess another interesting perspective I pondered upon is how do we ensure the right how do we ensure the right division between decentralization and centralization, because too much of decentralization also there's too much of cons. So how do we find that fine line, right? That's something that takes a few months to or even years to think about. So
Yeah, definitely a good point. So there always is a fine line that you can actually find a balance between the two type of concepts. Even right now, not everything is actually completely decentralized. We still need a central network, so your ringgits and stuff are still coming from a central organization before you exchange it into a crypto, right? So if we don't have that ringgit from the centralized environment, you can't get crypto values, for example, right? So there are always balances, checks and balances. There are always connections between the different networks that we have, the different webs that we actually have. Web 1 still exists, Web 2 still exists, Web 3 still exists. When Web 4 comes, all of the other three will still exist, right? But they will just transform and get connected in slightly different ways. Okay, there was one more question here, one more point here, and then I'll conclude. Oh yeah, you have a mic, great.
Hello? Yeah. So most of the things we do in Web3, we need gas fees, right? So for gas fees, we need to use cryptocurrencies. And all these cryptocurrencies that we are talking about, Bitcoin, Ethereum, all these things, they are not backed by governments, not backed nor supported by governments. So they actually make the price of the cryptocurrencies very volatile. So sometimes up, sometimes down. So that's the issue that we're talking about today.
Yeah, that's great. So if you think about it as a you want to add something first?
You don't really need gas fees. It depends because there are technologies they offer no gas fees. We use gas fees because we want to validate and we want to pay the people who validate it.
Yeah, correct. So there are two situations. There are things such as gasless transactions. Even things like OpenSea has already have set up gasless transactions and stuff for you to sell your NFTs and stuff. There's a lot of other networks actually use gasless transactions as well. But coming back to what he said, he talked about transactions, right, and transaction fees. It is something that is there. And this is actually preventing a lot of people from doing transactions, especially people who are completely new and want to interact with a blockchain product. I have to top up first before I make an interaction, which is a problem because then it does not give me that safe environment for me to try and play. So that's one. Then the other point that you actually made was on volatility, right? So since people like nasi lemak, so let me bring this nasi lemak example. So let's just say there's a nasi lemak owner putting up a stall here, right? And then she's selling it for like 1 ringgit per packet. It's cheap. I like that. On the streets, you probably can still find it. But yeah, so 1 ringgit per nasi lemak. So, but let's just say she's actually using Polygon. So Matic as the coin to transact. Instead of you paying in ringgit, you pay in Matic. So every time I go, every other minute, the value of your currency actually changes. So for that nasi lemak person, she will be very confused, right? Yeah. So that's volatility problem. But if you were to be able to sell it, think of it in a different way. If there is an ideal scenario where I can sell it as my nasi lemak is now 1 Matic instead of 1 ringgit, will that help? In a certain sense, yes, it will help. Okay, because you still have that 1 Matic value, which is better than a 1 ringgit. But in the longer terms, this Matic value can reduce and can change or can increase. So that puts that nasi lemak owner again in a dire situation when she wants to get ingredients, which are probably in ringgit, right? It's a problem still. Okay, so I might not actually make money out of it. I might actually lose money out of it. So imagine an ideal scenario when all of these transactions are happening within that same currency. Will you then have that problem? No. Okay. So that's where products or decentralized apps usually tend to build applications and coexistence of applications in one network to reduce the problem of volatility. Okay. But at the end of the day, it doesn't solve the final problem of changing cryptocurrencies back into real world currencies or fiat currencies, right?
So we're not there yet. So that is definitely one of the bigger problems that we actually have. So by having said that, I think I'll stop the session right now and
Yeah, I feel like one more challenge I found in Web3 is basically there are so many blockchain in around the world, right? And then we have Ethereum, we have Solana, and then I feel like the challenges is also the interoperability between the blockchain and also the security. Yeah. That's like what I mentioned. That's now the BNB chain get exploited, and then actually one of the problem is that the cross-chain breach between the BP20 and also the BP2, the breach getting hacked up. The hackers are not find the bugs inside.
Yeah, I think the hacking stuff, I think we can't avoid it. Banks also face the same problems, so we can't avoid it. But there's one more thing that you mentioned that I would like to point out is that different blockchains have different currencies. There's way too many of them. But think of it this way: I like to think of each network as a country. Malaysia, Singapore, Japan, whatever. Each of them have different countries. Think of each one of these countries as a network. So when you want to exchange currencies, you still have to go to either the currency exchanger, which I probably have to go physically to exchange. If I were to change it in the bank, it's crazy expensive. If I were to change it, where else I can change? Probably I can change it online somewhere. Probably there are some. Okay, there are tools where you can actually like put in money, then after that you go to that country, you can exchange. Okay. Transactions, no problem. Yes.
Like what you mentioned is not NFTs under decentralization, so it's like transparently safe to buy NFT.
Good point. NFTs are safe to buy, yes, but I will not condone whether the value of that NFT will stay, because that depends on the network, the utility of that particular NFT, and so on. Okay, so that's what I can say about NFTs. And coming back to that network earlier, so when we exchange currencies from one country to one country, we still have problems up until today. It's not that efficient. Okay, so yes, there's a lot of discussions. Yes, great. Verification process, right?
So verification of a transaction in all of the nodes. That's your question, right? Okay. Yep. So the way it works is that the miner, the person who mines the block, essentially you're trying to find a random value. We don't have a visualization here, but essentially you can think of mining as trying to find a random number. So you're trying to find a random number that when hashed together will generate a output that, let's say, starts with 4 zeros, right? So that means that that's a valid block. So if any single piece of data within the block is changed, your hash will be completely different. So without a visualization, you might get a bit confused, but that's essentially how mining works. So the first person who mines the block and gets the random number will essentially tell everyone, hey, this is the proof that this transaction is valid, and you broadcast it to the network. Then the network would take your number and hash it together, and if they get the output, that means it's valid. So that's how validation works on blockchain. So without going too technical into detail, that's like a very basic overview. Yeah, so when the node validates or verifies that random nonce, right, they just have to run it through, which is a non-CPU intensive procedure. So it depends on the consensus protocol or consensus mechanism of a particular chain. So if, let's say, to put the transaction into the ledger, you have to at least run the proof once first to make sure that it's valid. Then again, because if you were to just give me a block and say that's true, how do I know it's true? Yeah.
just sorry to stop. I'm gonna like move this conversation later as private because it's getting technical. And so for those of in all the discussions, right? Because at the end of the day, we're consumers. Most of us will become consumers. We don't need to know the nitty-gritty of it. But of course, if you would like to know, that's great. At least know how it works, what are the problems it can cause, how do you avoid those problems. So, okay, so now I'll just leave it to that.
Okay, everyone. So I'm DY from KopiDAO product team, and originally this segment should be delivered by Jason, but unfortunately he was down sick with high fever last night, so let's just make him a speedy recovery, right? Okay, so I think a lot of the students here on the floor is actually just getting to know about Web3, and then there's a lot of questions, right? So that's the reason actually that's the reason why KopiDAO is actually opportunities and potential for meaningful change in the world. For example, Dila has also shared VitalDAO, right? VitalDAO actually helps to decentralize the price of vaccines and researchers. So right now, Web3 is actually like a blank canvas. We desperately need a lot of talents to actually enter this space, and then to help us overcome with challenges like UI UX and combating fraud and so on and so forth. So, what is actually KopiDAO? KopiDAO, we are actually on a mission to onboard and nurture the next 1 million Web3 talents. Okay, and yeah, and we are also actually a lot of the work that we are doing is also focusing on the future of learning and future of work. So this is also our mission. We are trying to onboard a lot of talents. With a goal to actually solve a lot of problems in this space. So right now we're also in the work of launching our own KopiDAO Academy. We are trying to let's say work on some of the future trends, which are future of learning. So we believe that learning actually should be modular, and the skill set should also be like Lego pieces, right? The Lego pieces, because a lot of the traditional education right now is actually go through like 3 years of education, right? And then later on we need to go through internship and then find for a job. We find that this process is actually very, very long and not very productive to change, right? And then so usually traditional education, it takes like 40 years to actually take new trends and incorporate into the education system. Okay, but what we are trying to do at KopiDAO is actually letting you learn. We're actually letting you learn and then apply immediately with NFT certificates and then get paid immediately. So we actually shorten the time of learning, applying, and then get paid. So yeah. So it's basically plug and play. Sorry. Question.
So, hey, my name is Lee. I'm part of KopiDAO as well, with DY and Web3 contributor in the space for about a year plus now. I went from a Web2 job, working in payments as customer service representative, and then moving into DAOs, and then currently I'm on another project. So I can tell you a little bit more about how moving from Web2 to Web3 looks like in the career. So definitely want to temper expectations, because even though there's a lot of money in crypto and DeFi, there's also a lot of challenges, and not only like skill challenges, technical challenges, but also personal challenges. For example, working with a different time zone, working with a fully remote team, having no colleagues around you. So I would encourage you to definitely talk to people who actually work in space and try to get a holistic view of it. But the good thing is that with KopiDAO or with educational organizations, you don't have to spend a single cent to be in Web3 because all you need is your attention and time to actually go through the education materials that have been prepared. That at KopiDAO we're preparing the onboarding basically for talents to Web3. And what happens is that basically you would have a leading advantage in your next job search if it comes down to a Web3 organization. So personally, I went from working in a payments company, and then I basically started writing articles after reading white papers of projects in Ethereum. And that's how I got my first writing job in Web3 with Unify, which is a Web3 platform, running the largest in the world. And basically from there, it's just leapfrogging from one DAO to another. And the good thing about working in Web3 is that you don't have to be tied down to one company. It's really your choice whether you want to work for one DAO, 2 DAOs, 3 DAOs, 7 DAOs, and even if you can handle it. But the control is with you. And how fast you want to scale your career, how fast you want to accelerate your skills, is totally up to you. And that's why I think stuff that KopiDAO is doing with these kind of learning platforms is really useful. And to start, you don't have to pay a single cent. You just need your time and attention. And I think you're talking more about how that works.
And thanks a lot. So a lot of things that we at KopiDAO do is we try to, work towards a goal that will, bring a positive change in the world. And I believe that Clean has actually helped explain a lot of stuff. And we also believe in the future of work where it should be collaborative, gamified, and actually multiplayer. And then we are also touching into topics like the distributed workforce, where right now we are actually seeing more of, which is remote work, and then access to global opportunities, plus ability to shift fields easily, and also enjoying multiple meaningful work at the same time. Okay, so actually, just a couple values of a DAO. It's actually mission driven. So there are similarities with KopiDAO and the Vita DAO. We all have like a mission that we want to accomplish together, but then actually we are all individual communities that actually have the same goal. We come together and we want to make education and the future of work be decentralized and distributed and peer-to-peer. Okay, so power is actually evenly distributed to our community. And for transparent, it's actually we have like a transparent treasury. That means anyone who actually believe in a mission of KopiDAO to actually distribute, decentralized, make learning decentralized and distributed, so then they can actually like check out, okay, how much funds do you have to actually allow me to, do some meaningful work in this space? Then you can actually join KopiDAO and actually just start contributing to the DAO. And then also it's flexible for participants. That means you can subscribe to any projects to work, okay, at your free time, remotely, within your time zone, and it's inclusive. It doesn't ask for your loyalty and anything. It's just results driven, basically. So I actually touched a bit of the future of work. So and then so if you are in Web3, every day we are actually seeing a lot of big brands, big corporations are coming into Web3, and what that means is actually next slide. So what it means is actually there are humongous demand for talents in this space, right? And what these are some of the primary examples of some talents that the Web3 is actually has a strong demand for. Next. Yeah. So so this is KopiDAO. We are actually a place for people who are interested to learn about Web3 to come together and then just learn, apply, and get paid together. And we also have community members from Singapore, Philippines, Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, and of course Malaysia, right? So if you're interested and curious about KopiDAO, you can actually join us. We actually have a Linktree QR code at the end of the slide. So thank you.
Alright, everyone. How are you all feeling right now? Are you all feeling tired? Do you all want to take a quick break? Hungry? Hungry? Okay, we're going to try to make the hands-on session as quick as possible. But I'll give you guys a quick break for a while. I think maybe 10 minutes is good. 7:30 we come back. Is that okay? So at 7:30 we'll come back. We'll do the hands-on session, and then after that, I'm pretty sure you guys can go eat. Alright? See you guys. slides on how to set up your MetaMask. Okay, no worries. We'll walk through it right now with everyone. But yeah, there will be a few things that I'll need you guys to do, which might feel a bit insecure. But we'll go to that later. Okay, so basically, I'm Ethan. I'm the founder of ELVTD, and ELVTD is an NFT as a service company. That's what we call it as. Essentially, we're trying to bring utility-backed NFTs into the market for the masses, right? So we've done things like NFT validators, NFT ticketing, membership system, loyalty systems, and now we're going into education. So things like micro-credentials, like your certs essentially would be an NFT, or it would exist on the blockchain in any other form, either an NFT or not, so that we could essentially like validate and verify that you're really the owner, or you've really learned or graduated from a university. So that's basically a very brief intro on ELVTD. I won't spend too much time on this because we will be going on the hands-on session, and we understand you're kind of hungry. Okay. So for the hands-on session, right, we'll go over a few things. Firstly, like how to set up your wallet, what are addresses, balances, networks, and then we'll also go through like some transactions, so you learn how to send and receive money. And finally, you'll receive your NFT, which I wouldn't say certifies you as like a Web3 wizard, but at least it means that you've gained some knowledge that probably from this event today. Yeah. Okay. So the first thing that you guys need to do, if you guys don't have MetaMask yet, is to install it. So I'll give you guys about like 5 minutes. I think that's enough time for you all to install. If you guys can't scan, you can move closer to the screen. I think this auditorium is quite small. Okay. So I think everyone is scanned. Okay, not yet. Okay, everyone is installing. I have a question. How fast is the Wi-Fi in APU? Better than what? You have? Okay. Interesting comparison. Yeah, did anyone actually run a list? I'm actually curious. Yeah. Anyone wants to run if you really have a wallet, you do that. And then for those who just downloaded, you probably see the screen. You guys can follow along. I will walk you guys through it as well. Then I explain some concepts throughout the way. But yeah, give you guys some time. Also understand that it's a Friday night, and most of you all go out to party or to drink. So yeah, thank you guys so much for still staying here until so late. Okay, has everyone gotten your wallet downloaded already? Or still downloading? Anyone downloading? Downloaded already. Okay, good. So you guys can go ahead and create a new wallet. I think most of y'all would like naturally be able to like go through all these steps yourself. But for those who are still lost, you can just click on create a new wallet. And if I'm going too fast, also feel free to just like slow me down a bit. And then after that, you would key in your password, and from there you can see a screen that says secure your wallet. If you don't see a screen, probably MetaMask has updated something because they just pushed a new update like quite recently, and we built these slides like about 3 months ago. So there might be some changes, but yeah, you will try to secure your wallet. Does everyone see a secure your wallet? Okay. Yes. Okay, that's good. So when you are securing your wallet, right, you will see something called a seed phrase, and your seed phrase is essentially like
actually the guide, the video guide. You guys don't have to watch the video guide because I'll walk you guys through it. But yeah, you guys would see a term called seed phrase. And so seed phrase is like 12 to 24 random words. It depends on the platform. Some use 12, some use 16, some use 18, some use 24. So those 12 to 24, I think MetaMask is 12. These random words, right, is essentially your master password to your crypto. So the password that you fill in just now, that just locks the access on your phone. But if this seed phrase gets leaked out to public, anyone from anywhere in the world, whether they're using a phone or a laptop, they don't even need to know your password and they can access all of your funds. So what happened to me last time was I actually leaked my private key towards my wallet, and so I had all of my funds in there, essentially my whole savings. And what happened was it just disappeared when I was sleeping. So when I woke up, all of my funds were gone. Every single cent I had in my bank account was in crypto, and it was all in that wallet. It just disappeared. So it's really important that you guys keep your seed phrase saved properly. So if you guys are doing it right now, you guys might either be writing it down on a piece of paper, or you guys might be saving it on your notes. So if you guys do it on paper, make sure no one has access to that book, not even your girlfriend, your mom, not even your dog. And for those who are saving it on your notes, move it out. Don't save it on notes. Because I have a friend who actually has a tool that can access iCloud Notes, Evernote, and also I think Dropbox. Yeah, so it's not secure, even though if you have a password. I'll give you guys some time to like write it down, because I know you guys wanna like be safe about it. And then after you guys write it down, yeah, give it somewhere safe. Okay. Yeah, you have a question? How do you recover? What do you mean? Yeah, so from your previous screen, you should have seen your seed phrase, right? So you have to save that. And then now it's asking you to retype what you saved. Yeah, so it's just confirm that you actually saved the correct seed phrase. So if one letter is wrong, or even the order of your words are wrong, you get a totally different account. Yeah. There's a lot of questions to ask that you can buy XRP. No, I'm kidding. Buy XRP. Buy Doge. One Doge is one Doge. Yeah, big brain. Yeah, there's a lot of like scam cryptos, so be very careful of that. Yeah. So as we go through this, right, when I walk you guys through the whole hands-on session, we'll learn how to like make a transaction, essentially like how to use your wallet, right? But there's so much more that you guys can learn. So for example, like what kind of Web3 applications you all want to use? How do you even like protect yourself from scams? Like essentially, what's the first thing that you should do after you have a wallet, right? How do you even fund your wallet? So there's a lot of things that you guys can learn, and that's why we are working with KopiDAO. It's actually creating the KopiDAO Academy to help educate people about these kind of things. Sadly, we can't cover all of it in one session, but we can like for this hands-on workshop. Yeah, does anyone need help, or is everyone good? Is everyone safe? Is very safe. Still saving? Saving. Okay.
Everyone saved really? Okay, I will assume that everyone is saved, right? So after you saved your seed phrase, so yeah, you guys have like keyed it in your correct order, and then you guys should see a congrats page, where it means that you guys have saved, set up your wallet properly. So after this, we'll talk about addresses, balance, and so on your MetaMask, I should probably show you a screen of like what it looks like on your MetaMask. But to understand the concept of like addresses, networks, and balance, you can think of it this way, right? A network is like a bank, or let's see, I mentioned a country, okay? But we'll go a simpler level. Let's think of it as a bank. So let's say you have a bank account in Maybank, and so your address is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, 8, 8. And then you have your bank balance, and then there's someone else with a different number with a different bank balance. You can send money between these two people, no problem, right? But if you have another bank, that address, let's say your bank account number, does not exist in the other bank, right? If you have a Maybank account and you key that number into like a CIMB account, you try to transfer that to a CIMB account, obviously your money is not there, right? So that's essentially the concept of networks, which you won't really feel the effect of it now, but when you start using like Web3 applications, the network is very important, especially when you switch between like Ethereum to Polygon or any other chains. So you can just keep this mental model in mind for now, where essentially your network is your bank. And so if you have your bank balance in one bank, it doesn't exist in the other bank. So that's essentially like what's happening on the blockchain, right? So if you have transactions happening on Ethereum, obviously those transactions don't exist on Bitcoin, and vice versa, or any other chain. So this is what it looks like on your wallet. You will have your network on the top, right under the word wallet. You have your address, and then you have your balance, which if you're new to Web3 should be 0, so you have no money. But after this, we'll send you some fake money where you can actually send to your friends and essentially you get a feel of how it is like sending money to someone else. So this is where you can get your free money using MetaMask, right? I'll go back one screen a bit. On the top right, you should see like a QR code scanner thing. Click on it, and then you can scan this. So it's very important that you guys save your seed phrase. If you guys don't save your seed phrase, you can't actually make a transaction. So that's again another problem with UI UX, especially in Web3, because you want to keep things secure. You have to make things more inconvenient. So there's a lot of things that people are trying to do now to actually improve UI UX, particularly things like account abstraction, but those things are very, very technical, which you will probably get into if you start developing in Web3. Okay, so has everyone scanned this page? Yes, still scanning. Still scanning. Okay. All right. So you probably see this screen here that says claim testnet money. The first thing that you should do is actually click connect to Polygon testnet. So when you click on that, something should pop up saying that are you sure you want to connect. So after you get that, just press approve or yes, and then it'll ask you again, do you want to switch? And make sure you switch. So to be very sure you switch, all you got to do is just check at the top. If it says Polygon Mumbai or Polygon testnet, then that means you got it right. Everyone okay? Anyone need help? All good? Okay. So after you've clicked on the connect to Polygon testnet, then you can connect your wallet, which is the pink button at the bottom. And then after you connect, you should see change to claim testnet money. And after you click it, something should pop up that says success or a confirmation message. Everyone okay? All good? Awesome. Okay, so after you've claimed your money, right, you should see it show up back in your wallet. So if you go back to your wallet, your balance should be 0.01. Yeah. And if you don't see your balance as 0.01, check your network again. Right? So you can see mine is like on Ethereum mainnet, which is why it says 0. But if you're on Polygon testnet or Polygon Mumbai, then you should see 0.01. You'll see it? Yes? Okay, great. So if you want to receive money, you just press the button on the left that says receive, and if you want to send, you press the button that says send. So what you guys can do right now is you guys can actually play with your friends and just like try sending money to each other. And the first thing you notice after you try to send money is that you will see an issue that says gas fees, right? So let's say you have 0.01, or to make it simple, let's say you have $10, right? You have $10 and you're trying to send it. So every transaction on the blockchain costs gas, which is essentially your money, right? The reason why it costs gas is because there has to be a fee towards your network participation. So if let's say the blockchain was free, right, I could just submit a bunch of transactions and make it like a bad or invalid transaction and essentially just spam the blockchain, which is why there's the concept of fees, right? So when you have fees that you need to pay, that means that if you want to make bad transactions or invalid or spam transactions, that's going to cost you money. So yeah, that's why there's something called gas fees. And if you go deeper into gas fees, there's things like higher gas fees, lower gas fees, and essentially the highest gas fee will always be processed first, just because it makes more money. Yeah. Okay, so if you have no one to send money to, I think I have a slide. Yeah, you can send money to that address, right? And just try it out. Just figure out like what actually happens when you try to send. What kind of prompts would you get, gas fees, all this kind of stuff. Have you all tried sending funds to each other? Yes? Okay. All good? Alright. So do you guys still want to spend some time playing around sending money? Or do you all want to go to the next step? Next step? Alright. Okay. So for the next one, you will scan this QR code again with your MetaMask. And this is actually already nearing the final part of this session. So we are on time. Okay, so once you guys have scanned it with your MetaMask, all you got to do is still need it. Okay. Everyone got it? Okay. So you see something that says mainnet example. So mainnet is basically your real network, right? So there's testnet and there's mainnet. So essentially why you need testnet is because like I mentioned just now, there's a transaction fee. So if you want to test something, maybe that costs you like $1 or $2 to test in real life. So if I were to run like 100 tests, I'll be paying $100 just to test my code, which is very expensive and very inefficient. Which is why we have testnet to have fake money where you can try it out, and then we have mainnet, which actually is where you deploy it and you're using real money. So again, very simple. Just connect to Polygon mainnet and make sure that you approve and you accept all of that. And then after that's done, you will try to connect your wallet. So if you try to connect your wallet, it should change to mint NFT. The word should change. And after you press mint NFT, you will get a prompt that asks you to sign the message. So if you notice, there's actually a difference between signing and sending. So when you were sending funds to someone just now, that costs you gas. So you probably see a different UI, something like 0.05 plus something gas fee, all of that. But then if you see this, it says sign. So sign doesn't cost gas, but sending transactions or essentially making transactions costs gas. So there's a lot more that we can go into detail about like sending and signing, and even just like how all of this works under the hood, right? But since it's just a very quick intro to Web3 fundamentals, we just gloss over it for now. You want me to go back? Okay. This one.
Yes. This one, I can't.
Alright. Okay. All good? Okay. Yeah, so technically the NFT, after you get a confirmation, it's already sent to you. So I'll show you guys how you can actually see your NFT. So to view your NFT, you have to go to OpenSea, preferably within MetaMask. So there's a browser in MetaMask so that you can straight away connect and you can see your NFTs on OpenSea. Yeah. Actually, this is a video, but I don't think I'll try to play the video because it's be a bit hard to stop and show you guys. But once you guys go to OpenSea, on your top right, you should see 3 lines. So you click on that, and then you should see a blue button that says Connect Wallet. Good. So after you click on the button, something should prompt up and say accept and sign. So you're going to click on that again. And then after you accept and sign, if your account is not showing yet, go back to the top right again and click on account. Don't click on my wallet, click on account and then click on profile. Yeah, so this is your wallet, but essentially you should go and click on account. So after account, you press profile. So when you see your profile, you should say like a name and then a bunch of like other words. You can see collected, created, favorite. That can actually be swiped. So you can swipe right and you can click to see more. Yes. So after you press more, something should prompt that says hidden. And then you're going to click on hidden. You should see one item in hidden. Yep. Yeah. So you can actually unhide that NFT. I think there's like 3 dots also that you can click back in the previous screen. And then after you click on that, you can unhide. Wait. I see it now. Yes, you need help. Yeah. Yeah. So you can't see it within your own wallet. That's because of how MetaMask is. So you have to go to OpenSea. So if you click back here, browser. Yeah. And you search OpenSea. OPENSEA. So essentially, OpenSea is a NFT marketplace where people use it to buy and sell NFTs. So you've probably heard of like Bored Apes or CryptoKitties or even like people selling rocks on NFTs. That's all probably transacted on OpenSea. Okay. So once you guys have OpenSea on your top right, you can click on Connect Wallet. And then after that, you click on MetaMask and you connect. So there should be something that pops up that asks you to accept and sign.
Okay, you go and you
click that and you will sign a message. So signing a message can be a bit dangerous sometimes as well. We will talk more about this in like an upcoming workshop where we go more into like security. But signing a message sometimes will allow people to steal your funds or your NFTs. So it's always important that you read the message that you're going to sign. So if it says something like connect to OpenSea, blah blah blah, and everything looks okay, looks normal, then you can just sign it. But if it looks like some random gibberish, some numbers, most likely it's something dangerous. I would advise not to sign those messages. But yeah, that's just a tip on security. But we'll go more in depth in like upcoming workshops. So after that, you go to your and then profile. And so you see that the tabs you can actually scroll. You can press more, and then you can see here. So there you can see your NFT, and there's like 3 dots where you can click and untype that NFT. So that's essentially the very quick hands-on section on how you can set up your first product and making transactions, signing transactions, and also essentially like control to OpenSea. So I think that's all I have. Yeah, that's all I have. So thank you all so much again for listening and participating in this hands-on section. Right.
Alright, before we wrap up, we're going to have, so I think I mentioned the Polygon Shield giveaways, but instead of giving it up for the best questions, because I think we had lots of questions just now, we're going to do a wheel of spin, right? So we're going to spin the wheel and pretty much figure out who are the lucky 4 people who are going to get these Polygon t-shirts, right? Okay, so for the first, lucky winner of a Polygon t-shirt, let's.